This is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.
In the headlines, we begin with the ruling in Hong Kong. Media tycoon Jimmy Lai has been sentenced to 20 years in prison, the harshest penalty yet under Beijing's national security law. A decisive verdict in Japan. Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi wins a landslide snaps election, giving her party a lower house supermajority. In the streets of Buenos Aires, thousands protest President Javier Milei's ties to Donald Trump, denouncing what they called U.S. recolonization. The U.S. Joint Task Force Southern Sphere has conducted a deadly kinetic strike in the Eastern Pacific. 2 narco-terrorists were killed, the 38th strike in the campaign. Within U.S. borders, tensions are boiling over. Minneapolis protests turned violent 1 month after an ICE shooting with multiple arrests. Back home, the vice president is dismissing a recent legal challenge as a purely political attack. Vice President Sara Duterte calls the impeachment bid baseless and politically motivated. And finally, the Philippines' pole vault king has added the last missing piece to his continental crown. EJ Obiena wins gold in Tianjin, completing his Asian title set. I'm Andrea Santos, and Newsline's World starts now. A Hong Kong court has sentenced media tycoon Jimmy Lai to 20 years in prison in the most high-profile national security ruling yet under Beijing's sweeping crackdown. Carla Abellana reports.
Jimmy Lai, 78-year-old billionaire entrepreneur, founder of the now-defunct tabloid Apple Daily, was sentenced to 20 years in prison by Hong Kong's High Court. He was convicted last month on charges including conspiring to collude with foreign powers and publishing seditious materials. Prosecutors said the offenses were carried out through his media organization, which authorities shut down amid the widening security crackdown. The charges were filed under Hong Kong's national security law, imposed by Beijing in 2020, following months of anti-government protests. The law criminalizes acts such as subversion, secession, terrorism, and foreign collusion, carrying penalties of up to life imprisonment. Lai's trial stretched over 156 days, drawing intense global scrutiny. Western governments and right groups have framed the proceedings as emblematic of shrinking civil liberties in the territory. Beijing and Hong Kong authorities, however, maintain the law is necessary to restore stability after the 2019 unrest. Prosecutors highlighted Lai's contact with U.S. political figures, arguing he lobbied for sanctions aimed at pressuring Chinese leadership. Prior to this ruling, Lai had already been jailed over protest-related offenses, participation in a band, Tiananmen Vigil, and fraud charges linked to his media firm, Next Media. He has now spent roughly 5 years in detention. For God in my beloved Philippines, Carla Abellana, SMNI News.
Japan's political landscape has shifted decisively after Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi scored a landslide victory in a high-stakes snap election, securing a powerful mandate and tightening her grip on power. Val Divinagracia will give us more details.
これより高市総裁による当確者に対するばらつきを行います。
Japan's Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi has secured a landslide victory in a high-stakes snap election, consolidating her grip on power and giving her a strong mandate to push ahead with her political agenda. Early official results show Takeichi's ruling coalition winning a commanding majority in the Diet, far exceeding pre-election expectations and dealing a heavy blow to opposition parties. The snap election was called amid mounting economic pressures and growing regional security concerns, with voters asked to decide whether to back Takeichi's promises of economic revitalization, defense strengthening, and political stability. Opposition leaders conceded defeat, acknowledging that the scale of the loss reflected public demand for decisive leadership at a time of uncertainty. With this decisive victory, Japan now enters a new political chapter, one marked by a stronger prime minister and a clearer direction for the country's future. Reporting for News and World, this is Valdivina Gracia, SMNA News.
Meanwhile, the streets of Buenos Aires transformed into a sea of banners and chants as thousands marched in defiance of President Javier Milei's administration. Protesters slammed the straining ties between Milei and U.S. President Donald Trump, condemning that they described as the recolonization of Latin America following the capture of Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro. Carlo de la Peña reports.
Filling the historic Plaza de Mayo, a coalition of activists and labor unions voiced their fury over the current direction of Argentina. Carrying effigies of Trump and Milei, the National Pride and Struggle Front criticized the nation's shift toward becoming Washington's backyard. The march focused not only on LGBTQ rights threatened by new decrees, but served as a loud rejection of proposed labor reforms and the anarcho-capitalist agenda that protesters claim targets the most vulnerable.
Lo único que le importa es el dinero y que Latinoamérica siga siendo su patio trasero, ¿no? Y Latinoamérica se tiene que levantar. No más invasión a Venezuela.
Demonstrators also highlighted the perceived danger of joint military exercises between Argentina and the United States. For many, these moves echo the dark era of the country's past military dictatorship. Alongside domestic concerns, the crowd called for Palestinian freedom and an end to U.S. intervention in Venezuela following the shock seizure of Nicolas Maduro by American forces last month.
Este es un gobierno fascista porque quiere dividir al pueblo, quiere enfrentar al pueblo al servicio de intereses capitalistas, en este caso los intereses de Estados Unidos en la Argentina. Eso es fascismo. Lo impulsa Estados Unidos, lo ejecuta Milei en la Argentina.
While unrest simmers in Argentina, former Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife Celia Flores remain in federal custody in Brooklyn, New York. Facing drug trafficking charges, they are scheduled for their second court hearing on March 17. Both have pleaded not guilty and maintain they were kidnapped in an unlawful operation on sovereign soil. As the rally concluded, placards opposing labor reforms were set ablaze as a symbol of unwavering resistance. Amidst the radical shifts in Milei's 2026 agenda, the streets of Buenos Aires remain awake, serving as a stark reminder to the government that its alliance with the North faces a fierce challenge from the South. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Carlo de la Peña, SMNI News.
Up next, the U.S. Joint Task Force Southern Sphere has conducted a deadly kinetic strike in the Eastern Pacific. 2 narco-terrorists were killed, the 38th strike in the campaign. And tensions are boiling over. Minneapolis protests turned violent 1 month after a nice shooting with multiple arrests. More news when Newsline World returns.
Sa kabila ng mga mas modernong kaalaman at teknolohiya, nananatiling matindi ang banta ng HIV sa Pilipinas. Pero gaano nga ba kalala ang sitwasyon? Ang HIV o Human Immunodeficiency Virus ay isang sakit na sumisira sa immune system ng katawan. Ngunit tandaan, hindi ito nakukuha sa simpleng pakikisalamuha. Hindi mo agad mararamdaman, pero unti-unti nitong pinapahina ang katawan. At kapag hindi naagapan, humahantong ito sa AIDS, ang huling yugto na impeksyon, kung saan halos wala ng panlaban ng katawan laban sa sakit. Tuloy na dumadami ang kaso ng sakit na ito sa Pilipinas. Isang nakababahalang pagtaas, umabot na sa 500% ang itinaas ng HIV cases sa mga kabataang edad 15 hanggang 25. Ayon mismo sa Department of Health, 56 na bagong kaso ang naitatala kada araw sa bansa mula Enero hanggang Marso 2025. At ang pinakamatinding apektado, ang kalalakihan at kabataang Pilipino. Dahil dito, ang Pilipinas na ngayon ang may pinakamataas na bilang ng bagong kaso ng HIV sa buong Western Pacific region. Isang indikasyon ng lumulubhang sitwasyon. Kaya nananawagan ng Department of Health gawing opisyal at urgent ang laban sa HIV sa pamamagitan ng isang Public Health Emergency Declaration. Kalalakihan ng pangunahing apektado. 95% ng bagong kaso ay lalaki. Mahigit 1/3 ay kabataang nasa edad 15 hanggang 24. Habang wala pang deklarasyon, patuloy ang DOH sa mga sumusunod na hakbang: HIV testing, libreng gamot, self-test kits, at pakikipagtulungan sa DepEd para sa edukasyon sa mga paaralan. Isinulong rin ng DOH ang online patient appointment system para sa HIV patients. Layunin nitong gawing mas madali at mas personal ang pag-access sa libreng gamutan at konsultasyon ayon sa schedule ng pasyente. Ang HIV ay hindi tulad ng flu. Hindi ito basta naipapasa sa hangin. Ito ay naipapasa sa pamamagitan ng personal na desisyon. Kailangan din nating pagtuunan ng pansin ang ugali, disiplina at personal na responsibilidad. Isang paalala mula sa SMNI.
And we're back. The U.S. Joint Task Force Southern Spear has carried out a lethal kinetic strike against a narco-trafficking vessel in the Eastern Pacific Ocean. Under the direct command of General Francis L. Donovan, the operation resulted in the deaths of 2 alleged narco-terrorists, marking the 38th strike in an aggressive campaign that has claimed over 100 lives since last September. Paul Montebon reports.
Dramatic footage released by U.S. Southern Command shows the moment a suspected smuggling vessel was neutralized, transforming into a fireball in the middle of the Eastern Pacific. The precision strike was ordered on Thursday after military intelligence identified the craft as a key asset for designated terrorist organizations operating along established drug corridors. Thick plumes of black smoke could be seen rising from the wreckage as the vessel was completely engulfed in flames. Officials confirmed that 2 individuals labeled by the Pentagon as narco-terrorists were killed in the attack. No U.S. personnel were injured during the high-speed engagement. This latest action is part of the Operation Southern Spear, a mission launched to dismantle transnational networks that funnel narcotics through maritime routes towards the United States. Since its inception in September 2025, the operation has significantly escalated the use of lethal force in the region. While the Trump administration maintains that these kinetic strikes are necessary to stop the flow of drugs at the source, human rights groups have raised concerns over the rapidly mounting death toll. Despite the criticism, Southcom indicates that the mission will continue with absolute resolve as Task Force Southern Spear remains on high alert for any further maritime threats in the Pacific. For God of My Country, the Philippines, reporting for Newsline World, this has been Paul Montebon, SMNI News.
Meanwhile, tensions erupted in Minneapolis as protesters marked the 1-month anniversary of Rene Good's fatal shooting by an ICE officer, resulting in clashes with law enforcement and multiple arrests. Daniela Paulita will give us the details.
Clashes and arrests marked the 1-month anniversary of demonstrations in Minneapolis over the fatal shooting of Rene Good by a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement or ICE officer. Dozens of protesters were taken into custody Saturday after a demonstration outside the Bishop Henry Whipple Federal Building was declared unlawful. Tensions escalated when some participants reportedly threw objects at law enforcement officers, prompting police to break up the gathering. The protest was intended to commemorate the death of Good, a 37-year-old Minnesota mother killed in January during an encounter with U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Her death and that of another local resident, Alex Pretty, has fueled national controversy and widespread criticism of ICE tactics. Meanwhile, supporters and community members also held memorial event in Minneapolis parks where they paid tribute to Good and Pretty with music, poetry, and reflections on the broader impact of immigration policy and enforcement. The anniversary protest underscored the ongoing anger and calls for accountability as critics continued to challenge the federal government's handling of the shootings and immigration operations. Reporting for Newsline World, Daniela Paulita at Gemini News.
Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva has officially kicked off his pre-campaign for a historic fourth term during the 46th National Congress of the Workers' Party in Salvador. At 8 years old, Lula declared he is living the best moment of his life while sending a defiant message to Washington, criticizing U.S. interference in Venezuela and the ongoing siege of Cuba. Joy Tabanao reports.
In the vibrant city of Salvador Bahia, the air was thick with political fervor as President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva signaled his intent to lead Brazil for another 4 years. Surrounded by a sea of Red Crown supporters at the Workers' Party headquarters, Lula marked the party's anniversary not just with cake, but with a vow to protect Brazilian democracy from what he termed fascist threats. Despite being 80 years old, the incumbent leader insisted he possesses the strength of a 30-year-old, ready to fight for a social agenda that extends beyond his signature Bolsa Familia program.
Quero que vocês saibam que eu estou motivado pra cacete. Porque o que está em jogo nesse país não é só ganhar as eleições. Porque eu também não quero ser mais presidente só do Bolsa Família, só do do povo, só do lugar do povo. Nós vamos pensar outro projeto para esse país.
The launch event also served as a platform for strengthening the nation's health system. Lula also used the stage to pivot to international affairs, taking a sharp tone against the United States' recent maneuvers in the region. He expressed unwavering solidarity with the Cuban people, calling them victims of the U.S.-imposed siege. Regarding the recent capture of Nicolas Maduro, Lula remained firm that Venezuela's problems must be resolved by its own people, rejecting any form of renewed colonization by external powers.
O que a gente pode fazer? Nós temos que dizer alto e bom som que o problema da Venezuela tem que ser resolvido pelo povo da Venezuela e não pelos Estados Unidos ou pelo Trump. O nosso país é um país soberano. A gente quer trabalhar com todo mundo, mas a gente não quer dono, não quer voltar a ser colonizado. O nosso país é solidário ao povo cubano, que é vítima de um massacre de especulação dos Estados Unidos contra ele.
As Brazil prepares for a general elections in October, Lula has positioned himself not as a distant general, but as a frontline defender of the nation's institutions. With his pre-campaign now in full swing, the veteran leader is betting that his blend of domestic social reform and regional sovereignty will resonate with voters as they decide the course of the 2026 to 2030 term. Joy Tabanao, your citizen correspondent reporting for Newsline World.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has formed an interagency organizing committee to oversee preparations for the Philippines' participation in the Green Expo 2027 in Japan. Creselyn Catarong reports.
Under Administrative Order Number 41 dated February 4, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. created an interagency organizing committee to manage the preparations for the successful participation of the Philippines in the Green Expo 2027 in Japan. In the said order, the President designated the Secretary of the Department of Agriculture as chairperson and the Secretary of the Department of Tourism as vice chairperson of the Philippine Organizing Committee or POC. The members of the POC include the heads of the Department of Foreign Affairs, Department of Trade and Industry, Department of Science and Technology, National Commission for Culture and the Arts, and the Center for International Trade Expositions and Missions. Green Expo 2027 is an international horticultural exposition recognized by the Bureau International de Expositions and the International Associations of Horticultural Producers. It will be held in Yokohama, Japan from March to September 2027 with the theme Scenery of the Future for Happiness. Green Expo 2027 provides participating countries with opportunities to showcase their rich biodiversity, innovations in high-value crops, agricultural and fisheries products, sustainable agricultural practices, green technologies, ecotourism initiatives, and cultural heritage. Pursuant to Administrative Order Number 41, the chairperson, vice chairperson, and members of the committee may designate their respective alternates with the rank of at least assistant secretary or its equivalent, who shall have the authority to make decisions for and on their behalf. When necessary, the POC may create subcommittees and invite representatives from relevant government agencies, the private sector, non-governmental organizations, and the academic to provide technical advice or support. The POC, through the chairperson, is tasked to submit quarterly reports to the President through the Executive Secretary and to the Department of Budget and Management, as well as a final report after the conclusion of Green Expo 2027. The reports shall cover details on expenditures, revenues generated, accomplishments, economic impact, and recommendations for policy development and future actions. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Casaling Tatarong, SMNI News.
When we return, Philippine Vice President dismisses a recent legal challenge as a purely political attack. Vice President Sara Duterte calls the impeachment and bid baseless and politically motivated. And in sports, the Philippines pole vault king has added the last missing piece to his continental crown. EJ Obieno wins gold in Tianjin, completing his Asian title set. More news after the break.
Hoy, magnanakaw! Tingin! Pulis ka! Hala, magnanakaw!
Magnanakaw! Magnanakaw!
Uy, magnanakaw!
Magnanakaw! Magnanakaw!
Ano kayang gagawin ko? Ipamimigay ko yung konti para tumigil sila sa pag-iingay.
Pare, magnanakaw, namimigay ng pera.
Eto ang sayo.
Wow! Ang bait ng magnanakaw!
Eto naman sayo.
Kuya, yung share
eto
ko!
Huwag ka nang maingay. Eto pa. Tama na yan. Nakikipalato lang kayo eh. Huwag nang maingay. Diba? Konti lang pinamigay ko, mabait na ako. Tahimik na sila, easy. Ngayon, pwede ko na tong suluhin.
Masaya ang mga tao, pero tama po ba ito? Di po ba ang nakikinabang sa magnanakaw ay kasabwat ng magnanakaw?
Ikaw, kinukonsenti mo ba ang legal na korupsyon?
Philippine Vice President Sara Duterte asserted that the impeachment complaint endorsed by and carries no evidence and is merely part of a political move against her. Jason Rubrico will give us the details.
Vice President Sara Duterte strongly questioned the impeachment complaint endorsed by political party Akbayan. According to VP Sara, the complaint against her is a document that contains no evidence to substantiate the allegations stated in it.
Hindi na ito bago. Matatandaan na ang impeachment laban sa akin ay naging sagot nila sa aking pag-alis sa gabinete. Isang hakbang na isinagawa dahil hindi na maipaliwanag ng Pangulo ang patuloy na pagkalugmok ng bayan sa kahirapan dulot ng kanyang kapabayaan at bisyo.
The Vice President also cited the investigation in aid of legislation conducted during the 19th Congress, which she said was not meant to craft laws but was a clear fishing expedition for a planned impeachment against her.
Paulit-ulit nilang ibinandera ang isyung Mary Grace Piatos bilang umano'y bahid ng katiwalian. Kahit na sa kabila ng lahat ng investigasyon ay wala silang naipakitang kahit isang direktang paglabag sa paggamit ng confidential funds.
Duterte also revealed what she described as the alleged selling of signatures for the impeachment and the so-called for later release projects supposedly promised to some members of the House in exchange for support, incidents which she said were admitted by some lawmakers themselves. The Vice President further stated that Akbayan has no credibility to endorse or file an impeachment complaint, especially since its leader has openly expressed intentions to run for president.
Ilang ulit ng hayagang ipinahayag ng kanilang pinuno ang kanyang intensyong tumakbo sa pagkapangulo. Isang malinaw na indikasyon ng pampulitikang motibo sa likod ng kanilang mga hakbang. Huwag nating kalimutan ang makasaysayang talumpati noong Agosto 2024 ni Risa Ontiveros, kung saan malinaw niyang inilahad ang tunay na motibo ng akbayan bilang isang grupo.
At habang ang anak niya ay may kapangyarihan pa, hindi magiging madali ang ating laban. While VP Sara is in power, the threat of a full-blown Duterte comeback is still a very real and present danger. For one, they are supported by one major superpower, China.
According to Duterte, these developments clearly constitute harassment and an abuse of the impeachment process. In closing, the Vice President stressed that impeachment should not be used as a political weapon.
Naway magsilbi itong paalala sa ating lahat na ang kapangyarihan ng impeachment ay hindi dapat ginagawang sandata ng politika, kundi isang banal na proseso para sa hustisya at pananagutan.
Reporting for Newsline World, I am Jason Rubrico, SM9 News.
Meanwhile, supporters of Vice President Sara Duterte have launched what they call as a fight song for Vice President Sara Duterte amid a renewed threat of impeachment. MJ Mondeja reports.
Various groups gathered at a hotel in Quezon City for the official launch of the song Agila ng Pilipinas. The song is an offering from supporters of Vice President Sara Duterte amid the renewed threat of impeachment against the Vice President.
May isang agila ng Pilipinas, Inday Sara Duterte kong pangalan. Siya ay nagmula sa Davao, lumipad na may magandang pangarap.
According to the group, the song highlights a call for accountability in the use of public funds amid widespread issues of corruption under the current government.
At Pilipinas, lipad sa mahal ng kapila ng Mindanao, tungo sa kaunlaran, kapayapaan, ang hangad ng ating bayan.
Yung kanta na yon, it gives hope. It gives inspiration that with the millions of Filipinos, pero pa rin isang tao na inaasahan natin, which is Vice President Sara. Well, talagang very inspiring, no? Dahil ito na yung panahon ng Agila.
The message of the song is very timely and it is likewise very strong. That is actually a call to unity, call to action.
Aside from conveying a message of support for the vice president, supporters said the song would also serve as a response to political attacks against her. Vice President Duterte is currently facing a new impeachment complaint after the lapse of the one-year bar rule from the 2025 impeachment case against her, which was earlier dismissed by the Supreme Court.
We believe this song can be an antidote to all this crisis against her, the impeachment, and we would like to show that despite the impeachment that they are filing against her, pinakikilala namin siya na hindi siya yung iniisip nila.
Supporters of VP Sara expect that accusations and smear campaigns against the vice president will further intensify as impeachment proceedings move forward. However, they said that they would counter the attacks of the anti-Duterte groups, whether in social media or through singing.
Encouraging our group, pagka umakyat na sa Senado yung articles of impeachment, kung kaya namin within our means, magrarally din kami para kalampagin ang mga senador, ang mga senators upang matauhan sila.
Itong song na nilo-launch natin ngayon, itong Lipad Agila, is really made and composed to really unify all the Filipinos right now na sobra na talaga ang galit nila sa gobyerno.
To the Vice President, VP, sa Cebuano, padayon lang, please do more for our nation kasi we need you.
Lipad, Pilipinas, lipad, sambahan ng Agila ng Mindanao, tungo sa kaunlaran, kapayapaan, ang hangad ng ating bayan.
Reporting for Newsline World, this has been MJ Mondihar, SMNA News.
The Philippine National Police has begun a comprehensive assessment of its facilities and personnel in the Visayas and Mindanao to ensure the swift delivery of assistance following the onslaught of tropical cyclone Bashang or Penha. Almar Fosuelo has the details.
The Philippine National Police, under the leadership of Police General Jose Melencio Nartates Jr., is conducting a comprehensive assessment of police facilities and personnel affected by the tropical cyclone Bashang. Police General Nartates directed all commanders of affected units to submit reports on the condition of their respective camps, as well as the status of both uniformed and non-uniformed personnel, so that immediate assistance can be extended by the PNP headquarters. The move aims to ensure the stability of police forces, while simultaneously managing large-scale community response efforts and ensuring the safety and welfare of those affected by Tropical Cyclone Bashang. Based on the initial assessment, communication lines and supply chains in the affected police regional offices remain operational. The PNP continues to conduct search, rescue, and relief operations to provide immediate assistance to affected residents, especially those staying in evacuation centers. Earlier, the Office of Civil Defense reported that 8 individuals were killed due to the storm, a figure that is still undergoing verification. For God, my beloved Philippines, Almar Forsualo, SMNA News.
Meanwhile, 3 members of the communist terrorist group New People's Army or NPA voluntarily surrendered to authorities in the province of Samar. 2 of the former rebels were identified as alias Nori and his wife alias Dada, both residents of Barangay San Roque, Matuguinao, Samar. They surrendered along with 1 M16 rifle and other war materials. According to Nori and Dada, they decided to return to the fold of the law due to intensified military operations against terrorist groups. They also cited the active cooperation of civilians with government troops, which resulted in the shrinking of areas where they could operate. Meanwhile, the third rebel was identified as alias Ongbak, a resident of Barangay de Tarug, Silvino Lobos, Northern Samar. He said the community's rejection of their movement pushed him to surrender to authorities. According to the military, the surrender of the rebels in Samar is proof of the continuing success of the 8th Infantry Division of the Philippine Army in coordination with local government units in its campaign against insurgency. In other news, the Department of Justice or DOJ panel has submitted for Resolution 3 complaints against Senator Joel Villanueva, who is one of those involved in the flood control scandal. Meanwhile, Curly Discaya motion for reconsideration regarding his tax evasion case is expected to be resolved this week. Margot Gonzalez tells us more.
The Justice Department has concluded the preliminary investigation for 3 malversation complaints against Senator Joel Villanueva and the company Wow Builders or Top Notch Catalyst Builders Incorporated. This means that within 60 days, the panel of prosecutors will decide based on the evidence presented by the National Bureau of Investigation and the Senator's counter affidavits whether the complaints will be dismissed or if Villanueva will be formally charged in court. The malversation complaint is not bailable. The 3 other cases related to the same company involving alleged ghost projects in Bulacan have also been submitted for resolution.
Which will be released pretty soon. As to what date exactly, we just encourage the public to wait in the meantime, but we can guarantee that this has been submitted for resolution.
Meanwhile, the DOJ is also set to release a resolution for the 3 complaints against Sims Construction and its correspondents. It can be recalled that the DOJ had previously recommended the filing of malversation charges against former Senator Bong Revilla. One of the Sims Construction's correspondents also related to the alleged ghost project in Bulacan.
2 have been referred to the Ombudsman, one of which was filed with the Sandigan Bayan, and this is the malversation case involving Bong Revilla. The other 3, 2 have been resolved for release. So these 2 cases have been resolved and will be released very soon. 1 of the 3 will be released next week.
Meanwhile, the DOJ clarified that restitution is not a condition for admitting a respondent into the Witness Protection Program or WPP. This comes amid the possible return of the alleged stolen money by former Congressman Saldico in the flood control corruption case. It can be recalled that Interior and Local Government Secretary John Vic Rimulya had said that if Saldico was serious about negotiating, he should return the money he allegedly took. Co is facing multiple complaints at the DOJ, including plunder.
Siguro kung limbawang ikaw ay talagang merong intention, no? Kung ikaw ay may remorse o pagsisisi doon sa ginagawa mo at gusto mo nang makatulong, that is something that can be considered. But it is not a precondition for one's admission into the program. First, we have to first evaluate kung ano man yung sasabihin niya, kung ito'y makakatulong ba dun sa kaso.
Meanwhile, the DOJ estimates that Curly Discaya's motion for reconsideration related to his tax evasion case may be resolved this week. He filed his appeal after the DOJ issued its resolution on the complaint 3 weeks ago. Due to his motion for reconsideration, the DOJ has delayed elevating the case to the Court of Tax Appeals, while his wife, Sara Discaya, has been formally charged. The Bureau of Internal Revenue has been tasked by the DOJ to comment on Curly Discaya's MR.
But rest assured that siguro within, by the coming week, we will have been able to resolve that issue already.
For God and beloved Philippines, this has been Margaret Gonzalez, SMNI News.
The Philippine judiciary takes center stage in the regional fight for gender justice. Supreme Court Associate Justice Amy Lazaro Javier recently addressed a high-level United Nations meeting in Bangkok, highlighting this country's strides in making justice accessible to women. Kai Villan reports.
Supreme Court Associate Justice Amy Lazaro Javier represented the Philippines at the Asia-Pacific Regional Preparatory Meeting for the 70th session of the Commission on the Status of Women held from January 29 to 30 at the UN Conference Center in Thailand. Serving as a panelist for the 3rd session, Justice Lazaro Javier tackled how structural barriers and social norms continue to hinder access to justice and breed inequality within legal systems. She presented the Supreme Court's Strategic Plan for Judicial Innovations 2022 to 2027 or SPJI as a blueprint for a more inclusive judiciary. Highlighting the court's pioneering efforts, she cited the guidelines on the use of gender-fair language and gender-fair courtroom etiquette as key reforms already recognized in the region. She also revealed ongoing work on a new manual and protocol for handling cases of women in conflict with the law, aimed at protecting the rights of persons deprived of liberty. Following the sessions, representatives from the United Nations Development Program sought Justice Lazaro Javier's recommendations on how to further strengthen the capacity of judicial actors across the Asia-Pacific to address gender-related issues. Reporting for Newsline World, Kai Villan, SM9 News.
While public hospitals remain overcrowded and health services strained, billions of pesos meant for healthcare are quietly slipping away. The Department of the Interior and Local Government, or DILG, points to the growing illegal cigarette trade as the culprit. Paul Montibon has the story.
According to the Department of Interior and Local Government, the loss of health funding begins in hidden warehouses and clandestine factories operating across the Philippines. More than 1 billion pesos in tax revenues, funds that should have gone to hospitals and medical services, have been lost due to the illegal production and sale of cigarettes. In a recent raid in Barangay Panipuan, Mexico, Pampanga, authorities uncovered an illegal cigarette factory believed to be just one of the many operating nationwide. DILG Secretary John Vic Remulla says every box of illegally sold cigarettes represents medical services denied to Filipinos. Based on the Philippine National Police data, illegal cigarettes worth 1.7 billion pesos were seized in 9 separate operations conducted from December 2025 to January 2026. Authorities estimate that more than 1 billion pesos in taxes went uncollected, revenue that should have been allocated to excise tax, VAT, and other fees that directly fund the national health budget. Under the Sin Tax Reform Act, revenues from cigarette taxes are mandated to support public health programs. This means every illegal cigarette is not only a violation of the law, but a direct attack on Filipinos' right to health care. The DILG says the lost funds could have been used to add hospital beds, purchase life-saving equipment, and strengthen specialty hospitals such as the Philippine Heart Center, Lung Center of the Philippines, National Kidney and Transplant Institute, and the Philippine Children's Medical Center. Instead, the impact is felt on the ground. Longer hospital lines, overcrowded wards, and patients forced to wait longer for treatment. Secretary Remulla stresses that the real victims of the illegal cigarette trade are ordinary Filipinos. Authorities say operations against legal cigarettes will continue, but many are asking how many more hospitals and how many more lives must be affected before the syndicates behind illegal tobacco are finally dismantled. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, reporting for Newsline World, this has been Paul Montibon, SM9 News.
To ensure faster and safer distribution of benefits to senior citizens, the National Commission of Senior Citizens plans to implement a bank transfer system. Prince Tripoli has the news.
NCSC announced that a pilot bank transfer system for the distribution of cash gifts to qualified senior citizens will begin in the first quarter of 2026. According to NCSC Chairperson Attorney Merceditas Gutierrez, the new system aims to ensure that beneficiaries receive their cash gifts directly and securely. The Commission said the profiling and verification of qualified beneficiaries are ongoing despite the absence of an allocated budget in 2024, alongside coordination with the Department of Budget and Management to ensure proper use of funds. The NCSC reported that in 2025, a total of 2.8 billion pesos in cash gifts were distributed, resulting in 96% budget utilization. The Commission is also currently processing the 100,000 pesos cash gifts for 4 ATA centenarians in Capas Tarlac who were unable to receive their benefits in 2024 due to the transfer of the program from the Department of Social Welfare and Development to the NCSC. Meanwhile, DSWD Secretary Rex Gatchalian assured that affected senior citizens will not be neglected. He said he will personally coordinate with the NCSC to ensure that the issue is resolved. Under Republic Act No. 11982 or the expanded Centenarians Act, senior citizens are entitled to receive 10,000 pesos cash gift upon reaching the ages of 85, 90, and 95, and 100,000 pesos upon turning to 100 years old. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Prince Tripoli, SMNA News.
In golf, American Patrick Reed continued his strong early season form after securing victory at the Qatar Masters, claiming his second World Cup Tour title in just 3 tournaments. Meanwhile, EJ Obiena completed his Continental Collection after capturing gold at the Asian Indoor Athletics Championships in Tianjin, China. Carlo De La Peña tells us more.
Patrick Reed finished the tournament at 16 under par, holding off Scotland's Callum Hill by 2 strokes after leading from the opening round in Doha. The 35-year-old followed up his Dubai Desert Classic win 2 weeks ago and a runner-up finish at last week's Bahrain Championship, where he was part of a 3-way playoff that also included Hill. Reed carded a steady 2 under 70 in the final round, matching his 3rd round score to seal the win, despite Hill charging with a 5 under 67 to finish a second outright. Reed said the recent run of form, which includes 2 victories and a second-place finish, has been especially satisfying early in the season. Starting the final day with a 2-shot lead over Denmark's Jakub Skov Olesen, Reed maintained control as Olesen posted a 1 under 71 to end tied for 3rd with American Johannes Veerman. Hill, meanwhile, said he was encouraged by his performance and believes he can convert into a win when given a similar opportunity again. The victory comes as Reed navigates a transition period in his career after leaving LIV Golf in a bid to return to the PGA Tour, while fellow American Brooks Koepka has already regained PGA Tour eligibility under a newly introduced returning member program. Reed does not meet the criteria. As a result, Reed will remain ineligible to compete on the PGA Tour until August, 1 year after his final LIV Golf appearance. Meanwhile, Filipino pole vaulter EJ Obiena cleared 5.70 meters to outjump the Chinese contenders and secure his first Asian Indoor Championship crown. The win reinforced Obiena's status as Asia's top vaulter, adding to his achievements as a multiple Southeast Asian Games champion, a 2022 Asian Games gold medalist, and a 3-time Asian Championships winner. Obiena shared his joy on social media, saying the victory carried deeper meaning beyond the medal itself. China's Li Chenyang settled for silver with a clearance of 5.60 meters, while Chenyang earned bronze at 5.40 meters. The Asian record holder, whose personal best stands at 5.93 meters, attempted 5.80 but was unsuccessful in all 3 attempts. The Tianjin victory marked Obiena's second win this season, following his triumph in Cottbus, Germany last month. After competing in China, Obiena returned to Germany to take part in the World Athletics Continental Tour Gold Meet in Calvary. Philippine Ambassador to China Jaime Flor Cruz commended Obiena for bringing pride to the country, while the Philippine Embassy in Beijing also praised his performance. Other Filipino athletes also competed, with John Cabang Tolentino placing 5th in the 60-meter hurdles, Leonard Grospe finishing 6th in the high jump, and Hussein Lorana taking 3rd in the middle distance event. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Carlo De La Peña bringing you the latest sports news.
As China gears up for the Spring Festival, shoppers in Suzhou are getting a glimpse of the future with robots taking center stage at a tech fair tied to the holiday retail push. The 2-day event features nearly 20 local robotic companies showcasing machines designed to help families at home, from smart helpers to elderly support devices. One crowd favorite is an interactive robot shaped like a fluffy cat, able to answer questions and talk with children. Tech firms say interest is translating into sales. One exhibitor reported bringing dozens of units, only to see most snapped up within hours of opening. Smart cleaning devices also featured prominently. AI-powered robot vacuums now use advanced visual sensors to detect pets and moving obstacles, improving navigation inside busy households. Beyond convenience, developers are also targeting aging populations. A wearable robotic exoskeleton on display helps elderly users walk more easily by supporting their leg movements. One elderly man who tried the device said it made walking feel almost effortless. With consumer tech increasingly woven into daily life, organizers say robotics is fast becoming a staple of China's holiday shopping landscape. At the 2026 Grammy Awards, several celebrities wore iced-out pins on the red carpet in remembrance of Renee Good. And at Super Bowl, Chris Pratt and John Bon Jovi helped introduce the Seattle Seahawks and New England Patriots ahead of kickoff. Blake Ann has all the buzz.
The red carpet at major awards shows has increasingly been used as a platform for personal expression, with accessories such as pins drawing attention this awards season. At Sunday night's Grammy Awards in Los Angeles, several attendees wore black and white pins reading "Eyes Out," referencing recent actions by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. The pins follow a similar trend at last month's Golden Globe Awards, where some celebrities wore pins reading "Be Good" in remembrance of Renee Good, a 37-year-old woman who was shot and killed by an ICE officer in January, and Alex Pretty, who died in a separate incident involving an off-duty ICE officer. Artists, including Billie Eilish and Justin Hailey Bieber, wore the pins on the red carpet, while some performers mentioned related themes during their appearances. The trend reflects the continuing intersection of cultural events and public figures with national conversations and policy and public attention. Hollywood actor Chris Pratt and rock musician John Bon Jovi took center stage during introductions at Super Bowl 60 on Sunday. Pratt, 46, energized the crowd as he introduced the Seattle Seahawks, while Bon Jovi, 63, brought a more understated approach to present the New England Patriots ahead of the matchup at Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara, California. Fans in the stadium and viewers at home saw the two stars add a unique flair to the pre-game ceremonies, highlighting the ongoing tradition of celebrity involvement in major sporting events. And that's all for now. I'm Blake Ann, bringing you the latest showbiz.
And before we end, may you be inspired with the words of the sun. When we love, we do not love in words but in deeds. All for this edition of Newsline World. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, I'm Andrea Santos. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.
This is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.